All right, let's move that there. Okay, that's looking good. This is the most crazy experience of presenting ever, and everybody's been through this. So, congratulations to everyone who's done this already, especially those not speaking in English as a native language, because boy, that's a hard call. So, I'm Brian of London. Mysteriously and strangely, that means I'm in Israel, and I'm talking today about value for value, whatever the heck that means, and a little bit about podping and about podcasting. And the reason I'm excited by podcasting, and the reason I'm bringing this mishmash and this mix of podcasting to Hive, goes back to the reason. Let's try. What is podcasting, and who is this strange fellow? If this was an audience participation thing, I'd ask the audience if anybody knows who this guy is. But if you're a child of the 80s and early
Curry?
90s, yes, it is. I hear from that is Adam Curry, and that's how he used to look. I'm going to advance the years to 2005, and he's with a guy next to him called Adam Weiner. These two together combined to invent podcasting. Because Dave Weiner, this guy, the guy on the left, he came up with RSS feeds, and Adam Curry told him, let's put MP3 audio files in those RSS feeds, and together that came podcasting. And podcasting is really interesting from the point of view of history of computers and stuff, because it's decentralized. It was decentralized long before Satoshi Sakamoto had invented blockchain. So, we like to think, this idea of decentralization, it exists well prior, of course, to blockchains. And a little bit about something I've put in place with a lot of help from people called Podping. And this runs on the decentralized nature of podcasting. Podcasting is all about these RSS feeds. What I've shown here is these orange symbols. RSS feeds are just a text file, and the text file just says, this is my next podcast. This is my next podcast. And when you want to release a new podcast, just like posting on Hive, the RSS feed says, this is the next podcast. You change your text file and boom. How does that get out to all of the podcast players, all of the apps, and all of the indexes in the world? Well, that's a story. There's a lot of computer work that goes into checking what are now about 4 million podcast feeds in the world. And sometimes it's 8 minutes. Every 8 minutes, Apple, for example, will check all the RSS feeds. Now, they deprioritize some that don't change very regularly or haven't changed in years, but there's a lot of work going on. And I got involved with Adam Curry, who's come back into the sort of technology of podcasting. He invented it, and then he kept doing podcasts and making podcasts, and he has a show called No Agenda, but he left the technology by the side. And what he realized was it had been captured by this big Apple thing. Apple became central to the world's podcasts, and we didn't like that. So this notification problem, I'm not going to go into the technical details here now, but just to say that this symbol in the middle, this weird looking thing, that's Hive. That's podping on Hive. And what we've got running on Hive now, and it's been running for over 6 months without a hitch, is a global notification system. We've got about 7 major podcast hosts using it. They're notifying people of new episodes with it. And then lots of services, but not Apple yet, are looking at the Hive blockchain to say, oh, look, this episode's updated. This episode's updated. And only Hive can do this. Only Hive, with our very, very fast 3-second block times and our very low cost to use, i.e., nothing on a daily basis, but I've just had to invest some Hive power to keep this thing running. And I was given a grant, thankfully, by the Hive Fund, DHF. So thank you to all who voted for that. Anyway, Podping, I can tell you more about that. But the real thing, and the title of this talk is Value for Value. And these two people, you wouldn't know them probably. They run a service which says to advertisers, we will check all of the media alongside which you're going to run adverts. And if those two girls do not like your political stance or something you've said in the past or the way you handle anything to do with modern, let's call it woke culture, they will call up your advertisers or the advertisers who might inadvertently run stuff alongside your website and say, you don't want to be advertising on that website. It's people like this and the service they run, they call it Check My Ads. They came from a background of something called sleeping giants. And this isn't new, actually. This was done actually in the 90s with the right wing. We're doing it with the moral majority. The reality, though, is, and this is something that Adam Curry has come up with, is that advertising itself leads to censorship. And the reason it does is because advertisers generally just don't want controversy. They don't want to be associated with anything controversial. And the answer, really, to advertising is something that the internet should have had from the beginning, but it didn't. We never really built on the internet a way for people who consume content to directly reward people who make content. Now, we've got something going on Hive, which is a wonderful experiment, which is where we're all being rewarded with the inflation of our own system. You know, we get upvotes and the upvotes lead to rewards and money. But that's it's a very interesting model. And I think it will work in communities and so on. But even more direct than that is where your audience actually pays you. It's a fine meal in a restaurant. You choose to tip at the end. You choose to pay for the meal. It's sort of not fast food. It's not something that's just given to you. You don't value it. And the number one, this idea of value for value is something that Adam Curry pioneered on his own podcast, which he's been doing for I don't know, 12 years now. They ask the audience for money. They have a whole system around that. They call them producers. Everybody who listens to the show is a producer. People send in money. They also contribute with talent. They do artwork. The number one reason people don't contribute to creators whose content they actually love is they just weren't asked properly. Now, in podcasting, what Adam Curry and the team at Podcasting 2.0, which is a completely open source project, it's to take podcasting. He's called it Podcasting 2.0. I'd like to jump it to Podcasting 3.0, but we'll stick with his nomenclature right now. Is to take it and to say, you've got a podcasting app. Inside your podcasting app, you have a wallet. They've gone with Lightning Network and Satoshis. And can you pay micropayments to the podcaster who you're listening to while you're listening? Streaming sats is what they call it. And that's what they've done. They've actually built it. This is one of the apps. It's called Fountain. And you can, while you're listening to a podcast, you can stream 20 sats, 30 sats, 100 sats per minute straight to the podcaster. It gets paid. Now, what I've built and what I've built on Hive is this thing right here, which is I take these Lightning payments and I convert them to you in your Hive wallet and send them directly on. And I've also created a way to turn Hive into sats. So if you want to get a wallet, like this is another one of the apps. It's called PodFriend. It has a wallet functionality built in. There's a wallet button. You press that, it shows you a beautiful screen. You say, I want to load up my wallet with some sats, and it shows you a QR code. Now, just a little note here. There are a couple of QR codes in this presentation, which if you scan them, the Lightning wallet, you'll find 1,000 sats on them. And then for the people in VR, later, at the end, there's a slide which gives you some instructions on how to collect 1,033 sats for free. So you'll see that at the end. Anyway, it might just be that this is one of those QR codes with 1,000 sats if you know how to click on it. But the system I've built, and this actual website was built with the help of OzBitBank. You take this QR code leads to a bunch of text, which is at the bottom. Horrible big thing. Lightning. We won't go into details of how Lightning works. You copy and paste that into a website. It gives you a Hive keychain pop-up that we're all familiar with. It says send some, and when you do that, you get a spray of confetti, and you have now converted Hive into Lightning in your wallet, ready to pay out and listen to podcasts. But what podcasts can you listen to with this system? Well, there are more than 2,000 value-enabled podcasts you can listen to and stream sats to. And the reason I know there's more than 2,000 is because I've put more than 1,000 of them in, which is every single show on 3Speak is now a video podcast with value-enabled sats streaming. So you can listen to They Call Me Dan on Podfriend, fill up your wallet, and you can send 20 sats a minute to him. We know he's very wealthy, but he always gives it back to the community. And same, I'm always listening to John and the Cryptomaniacs in my streaming sats front end, and I'm streaming sats to them. And those sats arrive, converted to Hive, and paid out as Hive. Now, I said there was a way if you're in VR. These are the instructions. You get any Lightning wallet. Breeze is a good one because it's got a built-in podcast player. You create an invoice for exactly, and it must be 1,033 sats. You transfer that. Normally, I ask you to transfer the right amount of Hive to pay for those sats. But for this, if you transfer 0.001 Hive, and it's all on this website, lnd.v4v.app, which is what this is, bingo, I will pay your invoice and you will get 1,033 sats. I'm going to go to the last slide. I just want to say a big thank you. I've had help from Archange because there's stuff I haven't mentioned, which is that 3Speak users will be able to submit their podcasts to Apple Podcasts, which also means that 3Speak videos will show up in the Apple Podcasts app on an iPhone. Think about that. Think about how hard it will be for Apple how do they block this? Podcasting is open. RSS feeds are open. Are they going to block all 3Speak feeds? We don't know yet, but it's good to force them the question. And also to OzBitBank, who's done some work with me on the website stuff, which is just great. And thank you to all of you who voted for the various proposals, the 2 proposals I've had, which have been funded, which helped tremendously because I've been using some of those funds to pay external developers. I've got a lot of work to make what I've built in the back end open source and Dockerized and able to be run by anyone, because I don't want to be the central place where Hive gets converted to sats and vice versa. I want to decentralize that. So what we end up with is a fully decentralized ecosystem, and it starts with podcasts, but any other content can come next. So that's it. I don't know if we've got time for questions. Hard to keep track of time when you're up here.
We have time for one more question. So if you have an urgent question about podcasting, Adam Curry, or even more, I encourage you. So I almost enabled someone, but he disabled. If anyone has a question for Brian, click the icon, the raise hand icon in the bottom right of your user interface, and you would have how much longer?
Anyway, I just want to say thank you also to Roland while I've got a moment, because this is quite astonishing, the level of detail here and the whole way in which this has been working. I'm very impressed with it. Should we let Heyman have a question?
Yeah, go for it. Let me enable him. Heyman, you're on the air.
Thank you. I was just wondering, thanks for the great presentation. Is this going to be available in any other place? So I missed the first bit.
Well, it is already, the whole point of this is that they've created, the streaming stats thing is an open standard. I am bolting Hive onto it because I think Hive is better at some of this than Lightning. But Lightning has one huge advantage, the Lightning wallets. It's really easy to get an anonymous, quick Lightning wallet in apps. Apps do this. There are half a dozen apps that create that really well, and that's a problem like Hive hasn't solved. So I quite like the Lightning system the way they're using it, but combining for the creator. If you're a creator and you're trying to receive Lightning at the moment, you have to run your own node at home or use another third-party service. It's all a bit of a mess. Hive is a fantastic solution for creators because you guys don't need to know anything about servers or have something running all night in a box called an Umbral. You don't need any of that. You just have your Hive account and it accrues. So that's why the combination is so useful. But follow me and watch for updates. There's a lot coming very soon, especially with 3Speak and with Oriole One, if you know them, because I'm trying to pull this all together and make Hive a really fantastic place for creators.